remember now, we're not here to judge anybody. We want to handle this with love, right? You want to tell him how his drug abuse has hurt you, maybe hurt himself. Okay, Harold, what time did you tell him to be here?
5 o'clock, but he's always late.
No, he'll be here. In 3, 2, 1.
Is this a 5 o'clock free crack giveaway?
There you go, folks. This is the MCU'S Bleeding Edge YouTube channel and podcast. We are here to I'm here with Bobby P, who's becoming a semi-frequent regular guest on the Bleeding Edge, and we're teaming up. We're a duo for this episode 3 House of the Dragon review and breakdown. And basically, I'm just thinking to myself, how interesting it would have been if they would have had Tyrone Biggins in the House of the Dragons. He would have been a really interesting character, during this time period and whatnot and everything. He would have added a lot to the whole dynamic of the show.
Right. Little fourth wall breaking, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine if Tyrone Biggins was on freaking the House of Dragon, man? That shit would be crazy, But either way, folks, this is episode 3 review and breakdown. And episode 3 was one hell of an episode.
Yes, it was.
A lot happened. I'll be honest with you. Yes, and I want to point out right now that basically since it's just me and Bob here on this review, we lost a couple of our team members this week. Due to typical real life situations that are more important than talking about fucking, HBO Max, Game of Thrones prequel series and whatnot and everything. But,
real life happens.
But so since it's just the two of us, we're just basically going to have almost like a discussional kind of episode or review episode here on the Bleeding Edge, where we're just going to kind of go back and forth. And since, as I mentioned before, Bobby P kind of is the more knowledgeable Game of Thrones lore, and what is the actual name for this entire conflict? It's not the House of the Dragon, it's
the dance of the dragons.
The dance of the dragons.
For this particular Civil War, the dance of the dragons.
That's right. So basically, essentially, Bobby P is more knowledgeable in terms of this whole, thing than I am. I mean, and in anybody else that we've had on here, I know that he is the more than Cyber is too. Cyber was going to be on here, my co-host today. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it. But basically, at that point, I have the book. What is it called? Is it Fire and Blood? Right?
Yeah. That's basically the entire family history of the Targaryens.
Sure, and a lot that's what they are taking a lot of from in the show. From what I understand, from when I have watched, like I was talking about to you earlier in the studio, when I have watched some of these kind of explained and breakdown videos I've seen on YouTube by some of the ones I consider I guess almost like as sources almost. If you want to call them that. Yeah. I mean really there is no real official anybody can be a source when it comes to this kind of stuff, basically. It just depends on your stats on YouTube, you know what I mean? But but no. So I mean, basically, let me go ahead and play. I've got the teaser. Hopefully, of course, the way that StreamYard works, I have no way. It doesn't actually show me the entire title, so I can't see which one is the episode 4 teaser and which one is the episode 3 teaser. I got to kind of guess.
From my blood come the prince.
Oh, that's 4.
That's 4.
The road ahead is uncertain, but the end is clear. Aegon will be king. He's the firstborn son of the king.
You will be with your own child sooner than late.
I do not wish to get married.
Even I do not exist above tradition and duty, Rhaenyra.
None of it needs be this way in truth. No one's here for me.
The Crab Leader has dug in for siege on Bloodstone while his men sabotage our fleet. The matter of the Stepstones is regrettably urgent.
Crabs will soon dine on all of us.
We are losing.
Dragon!
And I'm actually going to go ahead and drop one of the House of the Dragon trailers now, and then I'll save. And there you go. And essentially, right there in that first House of the Dragon trailer, you can halfway through the trailer, you can hear some of the dialogue and whatnot and everything, and the direction starting to turn into almost a Game of Thrones type.
Yeah,
situation.
Where there's a lot of intrigue and a lot of backstabbing and a lot of
the internal politics and that whole struggle, like the where it does almost become another version of the Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean, in a way.
Oh,
if you want to, most definitely. I don't think that I never really thought about it that way before, to be honest with you. I mean, when I first originally heard of this entire conflict and everything and whatnot, I didn't detect the mirror image almost, or like that same sense of like the Game of Thrones politic that becomes like so like heavy and heavier and heavier, like, as the show goes on. Even though I'm a Game of Thrones novice, I do understand, like, I know what went down and like how the series flowed from like season to season and whatnot, and I think if anything, there's just less moving pieces, right?
Because it seems like it's basically because you got in Game of Thrones, you had the Lannisters, you had the Baratheons, you had the Starks, you had even the Greyjoys, even the Martells at some point were involved in it. Whereas this is really just the Targaryens primarily. You got some of the other houses like the Hightowers, the Lannisters. I believe the Starks will appear at some point in this story, but they don't quite take as an important role as like everybody trying to, because the throne isn't up for grabs right now. It's pretty much just Targaryen territory at this point. So all these houses they don't really take as involved part of the story, other than trying to get maybe their best like claim onto something, like better, like just to better their station, I guess.
What was now of course we saw the Lannister family represented in this episode. Not that I want to jump too far ahead. We're not going to really try to go, do a breakdown from like scene to scene of this episode and whatnot. I don't mind if we kind of jump around a little bit, but yeah, we got Jason Lannister, and of course we've got his twin brother, Tywin Lannister, who is now the on the council, the King's Council, and is the Master of Ships, replacing Corlys, right? Because he of course, he's with Daemon,
right? So
fighting the war, Stepstones.
Yeah, basically disobeying his king, because I believe he told him not to just yet, and he him and Daemon went and fought anyway. So yeah, he's they need a new Master of Ships at this point, because they're really not sure. They're really not sure of his allegiance.
No, and I don't want to get too far ahead, but that's the thing about that's what's honestly really intriguing about this third episode, and that's actually why I was really looking forward to having Renee with us and whatnot, and having Cyber with us and everything and whatnot, was the fact that I feel like with Renee, for instance, I have to believe that like this episode must have really finally freaking like got her into this show. I don't see how this could not. If you, I mean, it's not even about the dragons with this episode. It's not even about the It's not even about the battles.
She would have appreciated that it was Daemon's episode too at the end. I mean, he looked like a boss.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, I feel like, if anything, I feel like Viseris is basically like the soul of this episode, of episode 3. He's basically the barometer of the episode. You know what I'm saying? Like, Rhaenyra.
Yeah, he's starting to establish himself now. Like he's like before it was kind of like he was just trying to please everybody, whereas now it's like he's taking more conviction in like his decisions, like his decision to marry Alicent or his decision to keep Rhaenyra as his heir. It's like showing he's sort of like establishing a little more backbone, I guess, in a way.
I think I don't think so. See, I think
No?
that's one of the, I think it comes and goes with him. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
He second
Yeah.
I mean, look, he second guesses himself a lot. Look at episode 3.
Yeah, he does.
You know what I'm
He
saying?
does.
I mean,
Yeah, because after he sent those ships, he asked Rhaenyra if she thought he was making a good decision. Before that, he had asked Alicent what her opinion was. So yeah, you're right.
It was Alicent that actually convinced him and told him that he should go ahead.
Yeah,
and
because
supply
she told him what would be more beneficial to the realm for the crab feeder to stop or for him to keep going. So that was sort of like what made Viserys make his decision, I guess. Because I think by the time he talked to Rhaenyra, he had already sent the ships.
Yeah, because I mean, and again, I don't want to get too far ahead because I don't want to get like discombobulated. You know what I mean? I want to maintain some kind of, I guess theme of the episode, where we're not kind of jumping from like, the end to the beginning almost. I don't want to do something like reverse fucking, the case of the Benjamin Button or whatever the fucking bullshit was with Brad Pitt, where he's like born an old man or whatever, whatnot, and then dies the baby or some shit or whatever. Yeah, I don't want to do that like with the review. Although I'll tell you, that's actually for me, I was on J-Rent, my friend Joey's show. I told you that me and Cyber go on a podcast, Odyssey, and we review films on there. And I was explaining how that whole movie kind of explains my dichotomy. Whereas, I started actually impregnating my first woman, when I was before the age of 5 years old. You know what I mean? But it really didn't jive. Basically, it kind of fell flat as my explanation for how my shit works. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Either way, but no, I feel like it's important to, if anything, it's important to, especially with the series, with Daemon, he kind of, he's in and out of the episode, and we really see him in very poignant, active type of scenes where, you know what I mean, where
because other than the very first scene where he's riding his dragon calling out the crab feeder, I think that's the only lines of dialogue he has in the whole episode. When they show him later, he doesn't say a word. He's all about action. But yeah, at the very first scene, I believe that's the only dialogue he had.
Yes, basically, and basically, I think that for me, I think the series is almost he really is almost like the barometer of the episode. You really have to follow his throughout the entire episode. It's his sort of I don't know how long that hunt transpires, but I'm guessing it must have been maybe a day, a night and a day, and a day and a half or something like that. I think it was something
at least one night, because there was the night where Rhaenyra and Kristen Cole were spending with the campfire and everything. Right. So at least a night, maybe a couple of days, because they were tracking the heart.
The white heart.
Yeah. I would, because I remember I remember in Game of Thrones when Robert Baratheon would go hunting, and I remember his brother was saying sometimes it would take them 2 weeks to do it.
Yes.
Their hunt would last 2 weeks. So I want to say a few days, maybe 2 or 3 at the most, maybe.
I think in this case, though, and again, I'm just this is my opinion. I honestly think that the whole thing flushed out in about a day and a half.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible.
I don't think there was any I don't think there was any time jumps or anything like that and whatnot. Other than basically, I think I almost want to say that I think if Viserys, if he even slept at all that night, it was very little. You know what I mean? He mostly just drank.
Yeah, because was he hung over the same day that they killed the heart?
He was already hung over
that same morning. Oh, okay. Then it must have just taken a day, 2 days at the most, a day and a night.
Yes. And I mean, basically, he was drinking heavily, throughout the majority of the episode. He was drinking the entire time. which if you think about it, is very similar to like Robert Baratheon too. You know what I mean? Like when
it's. I mean, I would assume Robert Baratheon was probably more involved in his hunt, but that's what killed him. Was he got too drunk, and the boar killed him.
Well, yeah, but also it's in the books they make it seem like he also like maybe they tainted the wine or something like that. Remember?
Yeah, that's got something to do with it too. But I'm sure I'm sure him being drunk probably didn't help either.
Or maybe it was just the encouragement of giving him the wine and allowing him to get that drunk. I mean, like that was like sort of like the deception. You know, in a way, you know what I mean? Like, but no, Robert was like totally different than the series. Like, we'll talk about it later, but his hunt was almost like when that went down, I have expected him to just decide to not even kill the deer. I really did. I was like, he's not going to do it. He's going to like cry or something, you know what I mean, or whatever, you know, or he's going to like go to try and he's going to stop and just like walk away. You know what I mean? Like, I literally
he did seem a little reluctant. And then when he like kind of didn't give the heart the killing stroke and had to do it again, he was like, well, I might as well finish it now. Pretty like he was sort of resigned to it. But yeah, he did seem a little like he was unsettled by it.
Oh, I mean, like,
I don't know if maybe it was because it wasn't a white heart, like it was just a regular one that they found, and the white one got away. Maybe that's why he was kind of unsettled by it.
I want to say that I really think his heart just wasn't in it. You know what I mean? I think that he's so weighed down, you know, as they show throughout the course of the episode. Like when right off the bat, you know, after we see obviously Daemon on what is it, Braxis?
Yeah, Meraxes.
Yep. You know, basically popping up and giving us like a freaking really awesome in the dark, you know, like riding the dragon scene, like just torching people and everything and whatnot. Right. It was awesome. There were people, there were like dudes running and just straight getting disintegrated by the flame and whatnot. Like that was cool. And basically right from jump, the only time when you see Viserys actually seem like he's positive or happy is when it opens right up with him and they're celebrating, you know, Aegon's birthday before they go to travel for the hunt to like the Kingswood.
Well, I think his intention was to enjoy the hunt, but with all the talk of Rhaenyra should marry this guy or Rhaenyra should marry this guy, I think it was just kind of wearing down on him. Maybe by the time he got to the heart to kill it, he was just kind of exhausted mentally at that point.
See, and now that's
like I said, it seemed like he had the intention of having like a good time, like a good hunt and everything and enjoying himself, but just politics and real life got in the way, I guess.
But see, that's the thing though. You would think, I mean, if you're going to be on the Iron Throne, you have to be able to weave and grasp and understand that like there's always going to be politics and whatnot and everything. Like that's going to be a constant aspect of, you know, you being the king of like the freaking seven kingdoms or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like,
like I once heard a story about being a mayor, and a mayor is going to get from a certain group, he's going to get a bowl of shit to eat. And once he's done eating that bowl of shit, he's going to get another one from another group. So that's pretty much all he's got to do is eat bowls of shit, eat everybody's shit, and pretty much just deal with it. And I assume being a king is no different. Everybody brings you their problems.
Now, of course, there is a 3-year time jump in right at the bat this episode. So already, this is going to be our second time jump.
Right.
We already had a 1-year time jump between episode 1 to episode 2. Now we just had 3 years pass.
Yes.
Right. We got
Aegon II is already 2 years old at this point.
Yeah, and she's already and yeah, that's right. And she's already what's her name?
Allison.
Allison is already pregnant again.
Yeah, which I believe going to be Helena.
Son, right? Oh, is that the daughter?
Yeah, it might be the daughter. I'm really sketchy on because I don't know. It might be another son. because I think there's another son that shows up and a daughter. So I'm not sure which one comes.
I think the daughter comes last.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, it might be. That sounds about right. I think it might be the second son that comes that's next that she has right now.
Yeah, so I mean that's it's it's a massive time jump. I mean, basically at that point, at the end of episode 2, the war of the stepping stones is starting, like it's beginning. You know what I mean, like so now
basically Daemon and Valerian are just Daemon and Valerian are pretty much just kind of planning at that point at the end of episode 2.
So at that point, you figure like as of right now, they've already been fighting. They've already been waging this quasi war for 2 or 3 years now, or something like that. Right, and the whole conflict plays out over the course of like 4 years. They say.
Yeah, I thought I thought it would take a couple more episodes, maybe like another 1 episode. But yeah, they got it all done in 1 episode pretty much. But then I read about it, and that the war really didn't last in the books it only lasted for about 2 years. So the fact that they kind of whittled it down to 1 episode, it sort of makes sense because it was kind of a minor battle in the whole terms of everything else.
Well, I mean, I think that basically the war of the stepping stones, I think, is not a very sexy conflict. It's not. I don't think it's the kind of thing. No, it's a lot of running and hiding going on.
Like they had like in the histories of it, the crab feeder isn't really like a guy with a mask and he's got grayscale and he's scary looking in the history. He's just a normal pirate. So I guess they kind of had to spruce him up a little bit to make him worthy of being an enemy of a Targaryen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that mask doesn't do anything for me personally. Like, I mean, I mean, it's whatever. You know,
he'd probably look scarier without it because his face would be all deformed and I guess the guys who created the show, they confirm that he does have grayscale. Like that's what's wrong with his skin. So, I mean, the stone men from Valyria who had grayscale completely covering them, they were pretty scary looking. But they weren't wearing any masks.
So that's what they were talking about. That had grayscale in the series. Okay, yeah. Grayscale is no joke.
No, and this is there was like for a long time there wasn't like, I mean, somebody found a cure, and at this point it's about 300 years from now from the crab feeder having grayscale. So he's pretty much doomed to die anyway. From the diagnosis of grayscale.
Well, wait a minute. I thought in Game of Thrones, from the books, from what I've read so far in the books, did they have a cure at that point for grayscale? I thought once you got it, you got it.
Yeah, like later on in the story, I mean, I actually don't know if it's going to be in the books. It was in the show, but yeah, at that point, and pretty much throughout most of Game of Thrones, it's an incurable disease.
Shit, even Robert Baratheon's brother. What's his name?
Yeah, well, I guess that's why they sort of figured that it can be right. Yeah, and she was actually cured of it. Like it was, I guess they got it early on enough where it didn't spread, and she could still live. Because I guess what it does is it'll kill you eventually, but it destroys your mind first. Because like all the guys that are completely covered with grayscale, they're like animal, like they're animalistic, like they have no like conscious like thought, they're just animals. But I guess they were able to catch it on her before it spread too far. So
well, you know what it is, I went back in time and I tapped that shit real quick and whatnot and everything, I just I worked that grayscale out, man.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? Like I've been known to get rid of COVID.
Isn't she like 7 years old or something?
Is it shit? I could have swore at the point that and I'm not trying to get, I don't want to start getting into the territory of like mixing Game of Thrones with like the House of the Dragons all the time, but at the point that the point that what is Robert's brother's name?
Stannis.
Stannis. At the point that Stannis and Melisandre and his knights and the army and everything or whatnot are staying at the wall, you know what I mean, and whatnot and everything and all that, you know, like at that point when she shows up with her mom, she's like she's of age.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't really sure how old she was.
No, she was of age. Yes.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Is that when you hit it?
Yeah. Yeah. But you know,
so you've been up to the wall.
Of age could be anything. It could be any number back in those days. You know,
back then 14 was of age.
Yes, whatever you decide that day, you know what I mean, is of age.
Right.
You know, whatever number. But but no, and then what's his name? Also, Daenerys's sort of like bodyguard. So
Jorah Mormont.
Yeah, Mormont. Yeah. He gets great.
Yeah, he actually is the one I was talking about. He's the one that gets cured of it.
Oh, okay. So he does get cured of it.
Yeah, because he ends up going to the Citadel where Samwell Tarly is, because he's studying to be a Grand Maester. Yeah, and they both encounter each other, and Jorah Mormont is the son of the former Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. So Samwell just kind of felt that it was his duty to help him, so he cured him. And that was like the first known cure of grayscale that was like that far advanced, because I think at that point Jorah had it, at least half of his body was covered with it.
Hobosh Hightower that you see right in the beginning, sort of like
the one talking to
Otto.
One talking to Otto? Okay. I was wondering who that guy was.
That was Hobosh Hightower. That's Otto's brother. He is the Lord of Old Town at that point.
Gotcha. Okay.
So you can see his sway on Otto, which makes you think maybe that, you know, Otto's maybe not really so much of a bad guy or whatever. Like, he's not really even trying to manipulate the series. He's being leaned on to some extent. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the hand is a position, like is a, you know, depending on who you are, that is the hand is a spot where you can be influenced pretty heavily, depending, you know, possibly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, look at. I mean, you said you saw the first season of Game of Thrones. I mean, look at all the ways that Ned Stark was being pulled by this guy and that guy when he was only hand for about a month or so, and he was getting pulled this way and that. But I mean, it would be beneficial for Otto for Viserys to make Aegon his heir. It would, because that would mean that Otto is the grandfather of the king. So I mean,
well,
even if he's still hand, it's sort of a still parallel move, but it's family, I guess.
Yes, and I mean, of course, you know, throughout the course of the episode, we get like a couple different suggestions as to like what should go down, but you can see that clearly there's they're already like basically they're flushing out right off the bat this sense that right here in episode 3 we're getting the first indications of actors out there in the kingdom, you know, like in Westeros, pushing already now, saying, okay, well, you know, now that Aegon is you know, is here, you know what I mean? Like it's only it's only common sense.
Yeah,
that
everybody's assuming that he's going to be there.
Yes, because that's tradition at that point.
Right.
And people need to realize, you know, if you are like a complete novice to this, what's going on with this shit, that when Viserys named Rhaenyra as his heir, and he had that whole procession and that whole event and everything and whatnot, where all the lords like swore fealty and everything to her and whatnot and all that, he was breaking precedent. He was breaking precedent of like Westeros. He was breaking precedent for the Targaryens, like in general, overall, like almost he almost was like it was like a rebellious act in a way. Yeah, you know, like yeah, and
because if it was something that wouldn't be like an act of defiance, then they would have made Rhaenys sit on the Iron Throne when they had the council in 101, but instead they chose Viserys, which shows that no woman is ever going to sit on a throne.
Even women of that time that are intelligent see the common sense and everything and whatnot, and believe in like this type of like edict and doctrine and whatnot.
Yeah,
they
like
do,
Rhaenys.
You know,
Rhaenys knew, like in episode 2, Rhaenys, she knows what the order of things were. That's what she was telling Rhaenyra.
Yeah. And it's not even just that. Like, look at when Otto was trying to like try to sway Alicent to like, not even sway her. He was straight telling her, like, look, you need to like fucking talk to the series and get him straight. Because Otto and her both know how weak he is. And like how
you tell him the right things and you can sort of manipulate him in certain ways to what you need to an extent. Right.
Yeah.
Right. You got to finesse him.
If it's logical, you know what I mean, and whatnot and everything, like, and you have some kind of connection with him, of influence, you can sway him. You know what I mean? Like, he's lost. You can see that clearly in this episode that he's lost. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at what and again, I don't want to get too far ahead, but so basically, right at the bat, when we do see Viserys at Aegon's second birthday party, or whatever you want to call it, I guess, before the hunt, and we do see Hobosh Hightower kind of influencing or and telling Otto what he needs to be doing and everything and whatnot. We can see right there, right at the bat, the sort of Game of Thrones type inner politicking going on behind the scenes. And at that point, like I was saying, I think that you're right. I think that Viserys was excited at that point and was looking forward to the hunt and everything and whatnot, and like was genuinely. You can see at that point he's clearly very like happy to have a son. You know what I mean and whatnot. Like he is.
He was really happy on the in the little carriage where they were riding in. It seemed like he was really enjoying himself, and then like everybody just started getting in his ear, and he kind of lost it.
Yeah, and and basically the way it ends up going is that basically they go for the carriage ride or whatever whatnot together to the what is it, the Kingswood to hunt, which again, folks, the Kingswood basically is just a designated area of hunting ground that only the king can hunt. Like nobody else can hunt prey here but him. And basically essentially, if I remember correctly, what we end up with, like the way things kind of start is we end up with, I believe not the meeting, but like that, right off the bat, we have that sort of like scene where we have all the women together.
Oh, right.
Like,
We have,
where we have, in fact, I have it written down. We've got, let's see. Lady Johannes? No, that was from the Stepping Stones thing. Oh, they talk about this. They talk about this during. This is one of the things that they end up talking about actually, which is the fact that Lady Johanna Swan was abducted in the Stepstones apparently.
Oh, right.
Yes, because the Stepstones are currently occupied by the Triarchy, the Eastern Alliance led by Crabfeeder. The books say the Triarchy demand a toll of any ship passing through their waters. They claim more than coin from passing ships, taking off women, girls, and commonly young boys to serve in their pleasure gardens and pillow houses, which is a very frequent thing in the Game of Thrones books. You hear about the same kind of stuff going on, pirates and whatnot and everything, basically, which is what they basically are as pirates anyway.
Yeah. And usually, those type of pirates usually work for like the cities of Essos. And in Essos, it's kind of like a free for all type of country. They got slavery, they got everything. Like anything that would be almost illegal in Westeros is pretty much fair game in Essos.
Yes, and all those countries down there where you see Daenerys kind of cut her teeth You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's
you
what
know,
like the blood magic is still practiced out in Essos, but not really done so much in Westeros.
yes. What is actually the cat that one? What is that one region where the blood magic really comes from? Ashai.
Ashai, right?
Ashai is like the real. That's where you go for the real training. If you want to be trained in like the shadow binding.
Like the mythos is that apparently some ancient Targaryen went to Ashai and did some sort of blood magic, and that's why their whole family line has like a connection to dragons.
Yes, along with the rumors that maybe the Targaryens at one point even interbreeded with dragons in some way.
Oh, okay.
You know, oh yeah, I'm sure you've heard of that stuff. I mean, if you watch some of these lore videos and whatnot and everything and like all that, and they flush out some of like the concepts and ideas, like the possibilities, what went down, you know, back in the day before the Doom of Valyria and everything and whatnot.
Oh,
it's not within. It's not within outside of the bounds of possibility that there could have been some type of inbreeding, you know, of some kind, because that kind of stuff did go on at that point. You know what I mean? Like, you know, there was like experimentation and things of that nature. You know, like for instance, like with the giants in the north, right? Giant females would actually have to mate with regular men in order to conceive children, because they could not.
That's what I think it was rumored that's what Hodor was, that he was half giant.
Possibly, yes, because an actual male giant, if he tried to actually inseminate a female giant, he'd kill her. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so at that point, like that's how they would birth children. So look at that right there. You know, yeah. There you go, man. I told you, Bobby. I know.
You learn something new every day.
I'm into the lore, man. You know what I mean? Like, I'm telling you, man.
Right.
I've listened to whole freaking hour and a half long podcasts about nothing but like talking about Ashai and like every scrap of information there is on it and everything. You know, like there was all kinds of crazy shit going on over there back then.
Yeah. Oh. No, I never really went past. I was more interested in the Targaryens themselves, so I've never really read past like earlier than the Doom of Valyria. But it sounds interesting. I'm gonna have to check it out.
It is interesting. Yeah, I mean, you know, during this time period, you know, in the early time periods of this realm, there were a couple different species or like races that like would inbreed and stuff like that and whatnot.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Hey, what's up, Luis? Nice 4 episode. Yeah, this is episode 3, bruh. So, you know, I guess me and Bobby P aren't doing a very good job, like making it clear what the fuck we're talking about or something, man. But appreciate your comment either way. But no, so basically, we do see, you know, essentially the scene where we have all the different women talking, and we end up with Sarah Lannister, mother of Jason and Tyland, and we meet Lady Jocelyn of House Redwine, an ancestor of Olenna Tyrell, the Queen of Thorns.
Okay.
Who I should know who that is too.
And I believe one of the Kingsguard on the show is also a red wine.
Yes, I believe so too. And of course, also joining them during that like sort of scene or sort of that sort of talk or whatever or whatnot was Lord Lionel Strong's son, Larry's, who's called the Clubfoot because he has a deformed foot. And so that's why he didn't go on the hunt or whatever, you know. His brother is like the big knight or whatever and whatnot, you know, that like
and I think I think really that the the Clubfoot character, I think he's one that's worth keeping an eye on. I think he's gonna do something a little more than he appears right now.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of just like takes in the entire situation where we end up essentially with Jocelyn criticizing King Viserys based off his handling of the War of the Stepping Stones,
right? And
saying that it's basically turning into a shit show. You know, like Daemon and Corlys are losing. You know what I mean? And he's and King Viserys is mismanaging the situation. And Rhaenyra walks in and insults Jocelyn, you know, and kind of like, kind of fights for her dad,
right,
whatnot and everything.
As anybody would.
And then, yes. And then you see, but even right there, you see Alicent Hightower is the one out of the two of them that does act like a lady and, very much acts, diplomatic and whatnot and everything and plays the game and everything and plays the rules.
She settled into her role as queen very well.
Yes. Whereas like Rhaenyra acts like a rebellious teenager almost.
Right.
Like if anything, like that's kind of like, that's almost like her vibe in the episode is like that. That's her gist. Is that she's pissed off, she's not happy. Essentially from jump. And when we see her, reading that book and with the minstrel and everything and whatnot, which
playing them on repeat.
Yeah, and I forget what character that book was about, but it was about that princess or whatever that sailed sailed with all her people and whatnot and all that. You know what I'm talking about.
Not off.
No, I can't think of her name, but either way. So essentially, right after like that brief scene with the women, we see Jason Lannister attempt to like flirt with Rhaenyra, and as she is now of age.
And he's just as slimy as you would expect a Lannister to be.
Yeah. But essentially, all the dudes want to get with her at this point. Like that becomes very apparent. Like we get that, we hear that from the series,
right?
When he talks to Rhaenyra later on, and they have that that little spat. He says like, I've got all these different telegrams or whatever from different lords and everything that want to marry you. You're of age, and basically explains, he brags about his wealth and his really tall castle at Castle Rock. He says that like they're the second richest house in the realm, and I forget which house he says is the most rich. I'm trying to think of which one is the most richest. I think it's the Valyrian.
Yeah, because I believe when they were talking about marrying Corlys's daughter, I believe the Lionel Strong, like the Master of Laws, I think he is. I believe he said that the Valyrians were the richest house in the realm.
Yes.
Because that was like a real good reason for him to marry her.
Yeah, and so basically Jason ends up actually saying to her that he could go ahead and build a dragon pit to house dragons at Castle Rock, which, of course, Rhaenyra ends up being like, fuck you to the guy or whatever, basically like, thank you for the drink or whatever. Thank you for the wine. This is not the first time, that the Lannisters have tried to get dragons. Dragons are very coveted.
Yeah.
At this time period. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, they're very big, they're very powerful, effective tools of war. And so
they're the reason Aegon the Conqueror was able to conquer the Seven Kingdoms. Just like Stannis Baratheon said, would he have been able to do that without dragons?
Yeah, you're basically right. Yeah. So essentially, Rhaenyra is pissed that Viserys wants to marry her off, and she doesn't want Viserys to disinherit her as heir to the Iron Throne and name Aegon as heir. And so there's like a shouting match in public where Viserys kind of undresses her very loudly and flat out like even says to her like, even it's not even above my station to like take on a marriage or whatever or to get married. You know what I mean, or whatnot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he
just
flat out tells her, "You have to get married."
Yeah, just reminding her about her duty, which, I mean, he's right.
Yeah.
She does have to, like extend her bloodline, basically, her legacy.
Yes, and she ends up jumping off on a horse and taking off, but you do see, and I do believe that, like, I believed him later on when he tells her and says to her that, like, he just wants her to be happy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you know, like, like you have a family, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like she seems unhappy to him, which she is. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, she's
ever since her mother died. Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that, like, of course, you know, that Alicent married her father, you know, her best friend. You know?
Yeah, because that was sort of a blind side to her. She wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, like, we don't know how intimate that relationship was, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like, I mean, back then, like, everything.
That first episode, it looked pretty intimate.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I mean, I think back then, pretty much anything went. You know, like back in those days. You know, but no. So she's not happy. She's not. She's pissed off. She feels like basically, like, you know, she's being forced to, like, get married and whatnot against her will, and at the same time, she is a teenager.
Right.
You know, like, I mean, you know, so she's naturally, like, gonna be rebellious. I mean, that's how it works. I mean, I've got an 18-year-old daughter. Like, she's rebellious.
I remember being 18. I remember how rebellious I was at that time. It's just, you don't want to do what you're told ever.
No, most definitely. So she's very unhappy, and she feels very betrayed by Alicent, you know, who has now actually surpassed her.
Yeah.
As far as, like, her
title. That one in that scene, they were sort of like outranking each other.
Well, yeah, because I mean, she's the queen.
Yeah. Yeah, she does.
And she's also
outrank her, basically.
Yeah, and she's her stepmother too.
Yeah.
You know, so yes, she feels betrayed, and she's obviously very concerned that you know, she can tell that, like, she can see all the attention that Aegon's getting, you know, from, like, the, you know, everybody, all the lords and whatnot and everything here at this, like, the hunt, and essentially, I think that, you know, what is the name of the Kingsguard that she picked that ends up following her out?
Sir Kristen Cole. Sir Kristen Cole.
Yeah, Sir Christian Cole. He follows her on a horse, and as Bobby J mentioned earlier, they end up spending the night. They start a fire. He's almost become like her protectorate,
right?
Or whatever. You know what I mean? You know,
yeah.
And
her sworn shield.
Yes, essentially, and basically, that's when the politicking all starts. That's when you start seeing all the different players, like, hitting up Viseris and trying to sway Viseris.
Yeah, like Jason Lannister giving him the spear to kill the heart with.
Yes, which of course was, like, you know, I mean, just like nowadays, gifts and things like that are obviously done just to curry political favor.
Right.
If any, you know, but of course, you know, realistically, this is where you really start to see him really break down, you know, is like sort of coming off of his shouting match with Rhaenyra. He's clearly very affected by their dynamic and their relationship. And
he cares a lot. He cares very much what she thinks.
Yes. That's his firstborn child. You know what I mean? Like, you know, that's the only child he was able to have with the wife that died, giving him a child, more children.
Except for Aegon and Alicent's side of the family, she's all he has left, pretty much.
That's right. So if anything, he probably sees his wife in her, his ex-wife in her.
Right. Oh yeah, definitely.
So basically, you know, at that point, we really see the politicking of this entire hunt. And this is where we really start to see him really devolve in a way.
Yeah.
And where we really see him.
His patience.
He's drinking the whole time.
Yeah. His patience really starts to wear thin.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and it's very quick too. Like, I mean, you know, he's drinking the whole time, like heavily, you know, and you can, and like, I forgot the name of the actor, but Patty Constantine or whatever, he plays a really good job being drunk. Like his evolution of being drunk, like, you know, was really good. Was well played out. It was very believable. You know, like he just buzzed at first, and then he was like sloshed.
Right.
You know, and then he was like beyond sloshed when he was like when he had that moment with Alicent or whatever, when he like told her about the dream he had or whatever, whatnot, that he was like begging for it, like to come back or whatever for years. That for me really encapsulated the internal struggle that he has personally, like this, you know what I mean? Like, you know, he has a lot of, he feels a lot of regret.
Yeah.
You know, he does. It's very clear that he feels a lot of regret. He does not feel fulfilled.
No.
At all. Like as a person, as a man, as a king, like nothing, like none of it.
Yeah, like nothing. I mean, he spent his pretty much his whole reign trying to get a son, and it just never happened until now. And like circumstances where it actually finally does happen aren't ideal. So it's gotta really wear on him that, you know, what am I going to do at this point? Because like my ideal situation didn't happen, and now this situation is happening, but it's so messed up. It's like, how do I get out of it, or how do I fix it? And like you can really see that it's really wearing on him.
Sure, and of course his whole dream, like that he was talking about, that he had this like image or vision he had was of like him having a male heir.
Right.
Like rising from the flames or whatever or whatnot, you know, or whatever, or some shit like that. And it was really actually kind of sweet. Like it was really kind of touching. Like he even says to like, you know, that to Rhaenyra, that Rhaenyra's mom like made him a man. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like you could really tell that there was like a really deep love there.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, he really misses it.
Yeah, even if it was kind of like a setup, like a in-game political kind of like maneuver, the marriage in a way. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah, like they were betrothed, they still fell in love.
Sure. And we do get what I thought was very interesting was what I'm trying to think of what Mr. Strong, the father, Lord Lionel Strong, when he gives him his advice,
right,
on the situation, and Viserys kind of like mockingly is like, I guess you want me to have Rhaenyra marry your strapping knight son, right, or whatever, you know? And he's like, no. He's like, if anything, I would have you betroth Aegon to Rhaenyra.
Well, actually, no. Lionel Strong was saying to marry Laenor Velaryon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was Otto Hightower that told him to marry Rhaenyra
okay, you're right. Okay.
To Aegon.
Yeah, you're right. And so he was suggesting that Viserys should have married.
Yeah, because he was the one that suggested that Viserys marry Laena, the 12-year-old.
Yeah, like earlier. Like,
since that, right, in the other episodes. So since that didn't happen, I mean, he does have a point. For Rhaenyra to marry a Velaryon, it wouldn't be as good as if Viserys married a Velaryon, but it's almost as good, I guess. I mean, it's one of the better ideas. It's probably better than her marrying Aegon.
So he was suggesting that she marry another woman?
No, Laenor, because Corlys has a daughter and a son. The son's older.
Oh, the son is the one from the battle council, the war council, and everything and whatnot.
Yeah, he was the one. He was the one riding the dragon.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. All right. There you go. Okay. Now I see what you're talking about. All right, and that does make sense. That would be like a good pairing.
Yeah. I mean, it probably would have worked out better if Viseris married a Valorian, but I mean, I guess you got to take what you can get.
Sure. And there's people that do, and there are people out there that believe that that maybe like that that Corlys and his family also might even have Targaryen blood too, intermixed at some.
Well, his wife does. She's a Targaryen.
That's right. She is.
That's why Laenor was able to ride a dragon, because she's a Targaryen. So he had the dragon placed in his crib, like most of the Targaryens.
Yeah, she's the queen only by name, or whatever you want to call it.
The queen that never was.
The queen that never was. Yeah, Viserys' sister. Yes. So it was Otto that actually, and Viserys didn't want to hear that shit.
Yeah.
About
Yeah, and it's interesting because in the books, I believe in the books at this point, Aegon II is 6 years old and Rhaenyra is only 16. And the only reason that Viserys wouldn't marry them together is because they didn't get along. Whereas in the TV show, Aegon's 2, and I believe Rhaenyra is about 17 at this point. So there's a even wider age gap than there is in the books.
And so basically they'd be setting up almost like a contract. You know what I mean? Like, they'd be guaranteeing that they would marry when Aegon became of age.
Right. Yeah, I'm assuming that's what would happen. Yeah, like when Viserys was going to marry Laena, they wouldn't have really done anything until she came of age.
Yes. And I mean, that's another interesting theory. You know what I mean? It does hold up with like Targaryen tradition almost to some extent.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I believe Viserys' mom and dad were brother and sister.
Well, yeah.
And Aegon I had 2 sister wives.
Yeah, he had the 2 sister wives. Yeah, and they had a gaggle of children.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No. So basically, you end up with, of course, Viserys, sort of spiraling downhill almost, like breaking down emotionally or whatever, whatnot, and everything. And my order of operations on this might be a little bit off, but I believe it's before the actual hunt where he very like impassionately kills the deer. That it's actually when he talks to Alicent and pours his heart out to her and shows her the letter,
right,
from Daemon asking for help.
Right. Well, actually, it's not from Daemon. It's from Corlys's brother.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because I thought it was from Daemon at first too, but then there's a part where he says that Daemon would rather die before he would ask for help. So then I watched back again, and it was Corlys's brother that actually sent the help, like the message for help.
Okay.
Which makes more sense of why Daemon would be pissed when they sent it.
Yes, of course. And Viserys, like you already explained, Bob, like Viserys explains, why would I help them when they went against my word and behind my back with this whole fucking thing to begin with. You know what I mean? Like, I'd look like a fool.
Yeah.
And she educates him essentially, you know what I mean?
Yeah, basically.
And straightens him out to where he then does like vigorously decide quickly to like go ahead and aid and put the steps in process to go ahead and help them with the war.
Right.
The scene with in front of the fire where he like talks about his vision and his dream with Alicent and whatnot and everything, I thought was really interesting because it really lent to the fact that they've been married for 3 years. Like this isn't the first time she's experienced him like this.
Right. Yeah, like she's kind of used to it at this point. Or she knows how he is.
Yeah, he's not a bad guy.
No.
You know, like he's not evil. You know what I mean? Like he's not incompetent or anything like that.
No, he's not.
He's just, if anything, he's dispassionate, and he's almost like, again, like broken.
Right.
And that's what I really thought was what, to me, the episode really conveyed overall was just like, you know, the fact that this almost like devolving of him.
Okay.
Throughout the episode, you know what I mean? Emotionally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then him, you know, sort of finishing things up, you know, before we go back to Daemon, but him telling, you know, Rhaenyra straight up, I wavered. I did, but I am still backing you as my heir. Like I'm not, you know, disinheriting.
Yeah, he's not gonna change his mind later on. He's gonna pretty much keep his word as far as Rhaenyra being his heir.
Yes, and he also takes Alicent's advice again when Alicent tells him Rhaenyra will marry, but only if she picks the husband.
Right. Yeah.
So, but I think that again, I think that Viserys, when he tells Rhaenyra that, I think he means well. I felt like, you know, like I think he agreed with Alicent.
Yeah, he genuinely wants to see her happy. That's why he told her, you know, don't, even though you have to do it for duty, don't make your pick out of duty. Make your pick out of what makes you happy.
Sure. Which, you know, he's not that old, really. Like, you know, I mean, so, you know, like, it's not like he's going to die anytime soon, realistically. You know what I mean? Like, there really is no rush, you know, to some extent. And I felt like we'll see what happens across the span of the rest of the season, but I felt like he was being honest and like very like real, like with her at that point. Like that was really what he wanted to see happen.
Yeah, like he was finally, like I don't know if he like finally felt comfortable to tell her that he was more comfortable with telling her that he wanted her to be happy. But yeah, I mean he seems to do everything out of genuine love for her. Like
sure. And I think it probably helps him. I think for him personally, like getting this weight off of him.
Oh yeah,
like has got to be huge. Like, you know what I mean? Like he, you know, this burden of like having to, you know, like question what he should do is something that's really affecting him.
Oh yeah,
and
definitely.
And if anything, I think that he probably internally is thinking to himself, if he picks a direct course of action, right? Maybe that will get some of these fucking like, you know, lords and whatnot and everything to stop haggling with him and like playing politics with him.
Oh yeah,
you know, and pushing him to name Aegon.
Right. Yeah. Just, I mean, it like one less thing to burden his mind, I guess.
Yeah, because I think that like if anything, again, I just feel like this episode really was an exploration of him in a way and his psyche and kind of like, you know, kind of, you know, and he does have a lot on his plate at this point too, because the war of the stepping stones and whatnot and everything, as much as he doesn't want to talk about it, it is affecting him.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause there's things going on. I mean, the area that the stepping stones are in is basically their main like shipping channel.
Yes.
So if it gets going too much and they actually do lose the stepping stones, that could be a very, very hurtful thing for them. Like they could lose a lot of supply routes.
Sure, of course. So I'll tell you what. What do you think, Bob? Why don't we just basically do like? Why don't you give like a final wrap up or whatever kind of the episode of your own? You know, like if there's anything you want to add or anything that you want to kind of like, you know, anything that we didn't flush out that you think, you know, maybe as far as with Daemon, you know what I mean, and whatnot. You know,
well, there was one thing I noticed. I thought it was a good parallel with Rhaenyra when she killed the boar. and she's sort of walking back into the hunting party, all like covered in blood, with her fresh kill. I thought it really paralleled with Daemon at the end of the episode, where he kind of walked out completely covered in blood, holding his fresh kill of the crab feeder. Like, I thought that was a nice parallel between them two. I don't know, like they're more similar than we realize, I guess.
Like a symbiotic relationship in a way.
Yeah.
Like they reflect, they mirror off each other, and I think that it foreshadows the relationship that's going to develop between them as she becomes more adult.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because if I understand, and you tell me if I understand correctly, their relationship, the love that they have for each other and whatnot, that grows and changes over time and whatnot, and everything is real. Like, it is tangible. Like, if anything, like they really genuinely, like Daemon really does deeply care for her.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Now, I don't know how that's going to play out across the span of the entire series and whatnot and everything, like how far they're going to go with that. In the book, or books or whatever and whatnot, from what I've heard, if I remember correctly, it doesn't really go anywhere, right? Like, their relationship doesn't actually lead to anything.
No, it goes somewhere. I mean, I don't know how much I want to give away of it, because it goes pretty far.
But it's like a side thing, isn't it?
No, because their son is, like I said, I don't want to give too much away, but their son ends up sitting on the throne.
Oh, okay.
So it gets pretty deep with them.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, geez, that's a shock for me. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah,
I didn't realize they ever had a son.
Pulling the old Targaryen.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Why not? No, it's obvious that they want to convey. I'm glad you brought up the boar scene, because although the only reason why it didn't cross my mind to mention it was just because it was so flippant. It just came out of nowhere almost in the episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was sort of irregular in a way. Like, I wasn't expecting it at all when it happened.
Right. Because I mean, they were hunting the stag basically, and then like all of a sudden the boar just comes out of nowhere. But yeah, it was kind of unexpected.
Yeah, for real. And the boar just attacks them for no reason, like, or whatever, like, it was kind of, weird, but no, it was interesting. It was interesting watching her, like, walk back into camp, like, covered in blood and whatnot and everything, people not knowing what the hell happened.
Right. Some people impressed.
Yeah. So, I mean, what was there anything else for you? I mean, do you have any final thoughts on the episode? Do you want to drop a rating?
I'd probably give it a good 9. I thought the battle at the end was really good, was really well done. I mean, even all the battles they've done in Game of Thrones were always well done. These guys know how to film a battle. Seeing another dragon, we saw Sea Smoke. I love seeing that, which is Lenore's dragon.
Yeah.
And then we got a couple good, like really good shots of Daemon's dragon, Bloodworm. Meraxes, which he's also called Bloodworm because he's like really long and thin, and they got some good shots of him when he was flying around. And I mean, that whole battle was pretty good, especially when Viseris came out with his crew, and Daemon's pretty much using himself as bait and drawing the crab feeder. And the crab feeder was kind of intimidating, the way he just kind of nodded his head here this way and that way, and these guys would come out, and then these guys would come out, and they were pretty well coordinated.
Yeah, hey, I mean, I have to give it I'll give it a 9.5.
Okay.
Because I don't want to drop my first 10 this early in the series, because I would rather save it, because I have a feeling that, like,
there's some episodes in Game of Thrones that I would just give a 10 right off the bat, and I haven't seen that level of like a 10 just yet in House of the Dragon, but I'm expecting it, because
But no, this was the breakout episode of the series, right?
Yeah, it was it's definitely improving on every week. Like this has definitely been the highest point so far. I'm excited to see them go higher.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see again if you're. That's why I was saying it would have been nice to have Renee on here and whatnot and everything. I would love to. I was looking forward to hearing her take on the episode because I was thinking,
wow. it was everything she was waiting for. It's got
so much,
got a lot of action with the dragons, and then Daemon being a badass.
Yep, and all the character development and everything and whatnot, and the internal
all the political intrigue, right?
And whatnot, and all that. Like a lot going on here. We're talking this is a drama. This is a dramatic type of television show that's very serious and very violent,
right?
And and very fucking cutthroat. In terms of across the board as far as how things were back then.
Yeah, and if it's anything like Game of Thrones, just about anybody can die, even who you think might be a main character. They could die. Like nobody thought Ned Stark was going to get beheaded in the first season because it was Sean Bean, but that's what happened. Like it's a lot of unexpected stuff, and it just makes for great television.
Most definitely. Well, I guess that's pretty much it, folks. I think that we did pretty good. I mean, we kept it under a minute and a half. We kept it under an hour and a half. So Cyber will be proud of me because he likes to rag on me and bust my balls for
does he?
running so long on these shows sometimes. But
I got you.
But so yeah, I guess you'll probably see us next Sunday for episode 4. And hopefully, it won't just be me and Bobby P. We'll have the rest of the team back.
Right.
But do us a favor and please make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel and or whatever, follow the Facebook page, follow us on Rumble, follow us on Twitter. We're on everything. And we will see you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.
If I can find the outro.